2 years ago, Sophie Bretag couldn't speak. For almost 12 months following surgery for head and neck cancer, her voice was severely compromised. But in that silence, she learned a lot about kindness to others and to herself, more perhaps than she had learned in 20 years of leadership work. Sophie is an award-winning speaker, she is a leadership expert, and she has a brand new book coming out called The Kind Way. But we are talking today not to Sophie, the career speaker, but Sophie the woman and what that experience was like for her. Welcome to Big Stuff. Let's get to the podcast.
Much, Danielle. It's great to be here with you.
You asked a moment ago if your background was too busy, and my response was that everything about it I love. I can see a lot about you from your background, and I love all of it already.
Oh, that's so lovely. Thank you. Actually, I was vibing on your background as well with your lovely plant and your wallpaper, and yeah.
I do love a good wallpaper.
Me too. Me too.
We're diving into a lot of different things about you today, but I do want to begin with your cancer diagnosis because, firstly, it was an unusual type of cancer that not a lot of women know about, not a lot of people know about. But also, I think we often, and I hear this a lot with people on the podcast, is that there were early warning signs and they ignored them. So why don't you take us back to the beginning and share at what point did you think that there was something wrong and what were your symptoms, what was going on for you?
So about 4 years ago, a tiny lump grew on the side of my tongue, on the right side. And I see a dermatologist once a year because I like to get my skin checked. And I said to him, this is really weird. What is this? And he goes, look, I don't think it's anything. If it gets any bigger, let's see, well, let's biopsy it. I was like, okay, no worries, that's fine. It got a little bit bigger. So I went back to him. He took the biopsy of it, sent it off. It came back non-cancerous. And he said, and I thought, that'll be fine. And he said to me, very, very unlikely that it will ever turn into anything. These ones don't often turn into anything. Fast forward 2 years, we were caravanning in down the east coast of Australia. We were living in Cairns at the time. We decided to pack everything up and come back to Adelaide. And so we took 4 months on the road. And through that time, the lump, which had not grown at all in that 2-year period before, started to grow again on the side of my tongue. Now, the size of this, honestly, it was tiny. You know those pinboard pins, the little ones with the round head and then the long pin? Probably half the size of the head of one of those pins. And it was growing right on the side of my tongue. So it was actually rubbing on my teeth and annoying me. There was no pain, there was no blood, it didn't look weird. It just looked like, you know, when you get an ulcer or you bite your tongue and it kind of goes that white colour, and I thought, oh, well, it's just going to go away. It did not go away for...
That's interesting too, because those ulcers on your tongue, they can be so painful. Like, do you ever think, oh my God, it feels like this thing is enormous, and you look at it and it's tiny. It's like a tiny little thing. Yeah. But this had no pain.
No pain. And so I was thinking, how bad can it possibly be? It's been biopsied before. It's not going to be anything that's a problem. However, when I get back to Adelaide, it's annoying me enough that maybe I just want him to cut it off and go and, and remove it. So as soon as we got back to Adelaide in January of 2024, I booked in with my dermatologist and said, can you just double check this? It just doesn't seem quite right. And he said, look, I'm actually going to send you to an oral surgeon, because he said the fact that it's grown back, even though it was picked up as non-cancerous. Sorry, I'm just patting my dog so she doesn't get, if you're wondering what I'm doing down here, so she doesn't jump up at me in the middle of the interview. And he said, go to the oral surgeon, get it checked. I'm sure it's fine. And I was like, sure, no worries. What could possibly go wrong? Went to the surgeon and didn't expect to have my tongue biopsied on the day I went in. He said, we need to cut this out and I need to go deeper and biopsy the actual lump. And so in the chair there and then, he decided to cut out this part of this lump, which was absolutely, I don't recommend it. Please go under if you ever have anything cut out of your tongue. And then subsequent to that, it came back. It was biopsied and it came back, and I went to see him for the results, but it took about 4 weeks for the results to come back, which is actually quite a long period of time. And when I went back in, he goes, oh, I was expecting nothing because it had taken so long. Because normally you think when there's something serious, you'll get a call back straight away going, look, you need to come and see me. There's something wrong. So I was like,
I just said this. A friend of mine has been having these head symptoms and she just went for an MRI. And she said, I checked in with the doctor and they don't even have the results yet. And I was like, well, surely if the radiologist or the MRI person was worried, they would fast track it.
You would think.
But not so. Is that what you're saying?
Like I'm
Not
saying,
so.
and I'm saying push, push, push. So I had to literally push. I said, by the 4-week mark, I rang and I said, look, and they said, oh, look, we need to refer you to this other part of the, the surgery and, it'll be another week or so. And I said, look, I really want to have my results, but okay, I'll sit on it and wait on it. It can't be bad. And I went in and the oral surgeon said to me, oh, look, there's no real issue except you've just got baby cancer. And I said, I think I remember just sitting there in shock going, baby cancer? What do you mean by that? And
Is that the first time the C word had been
100%
used around this strange thing on your tongue?
Yep, 100%. And he said, look, it's no problems. We can just cut part of your tongue out. And I said, oh, and this is all in this meeting that I did, this review that I didn't even realise there was anything wrong until I walked in there. And anyway, long story short, it was cancer. I didn't feel comfortable. This is a really big part that I want people to understand as well, is if you don't feel comfortable with something and it doesn't feel right, then don't continue with it. So I changed to a different surgeon because I didn't feel that, firstly, they'd taken the seriousness of it seriously enough. I didn't feel really well cared for. And I then felt a bit dismissed when I was in the meeting with him when he said, oh, that's all right, we can just cut this out and cut part of your neck out and you'll be fine. And I went, what? So I changed surgeons and I have the most amazing surgeon now who saved my life. And what it ended up being was an SCC, so like a squamous cell carcinoma, very, very fast growing cancer. I had another.
That they are traditionally like that's a skin cancer, right? Yeah.
That's right. So really, really, really unusual. And particularly on your tongue, because it's not like I go and sunbake with my tongue out. And
sure you don't.
Sure, fall asleep in the sunshine. And so when they went in, they had to actually cut out another one that was underneath, further in my tongue as well. So I had the side of my tongue removed. I had to make the decision of whether I had that many. You had that many scans to check it hasn't moved anywhere, and thankfully it hadn't. But what they did is took out, as a precaution, 30 lymph nodes and a salivary gland from this side just to make sure that there was nothing it could possibly spread into. And then I have 3 monthly checks. So I am really lucky, I guess, that I'm alive, firstly, and secondly, that I listened to my intuition that something didn't feel right and I followed that.
Absolutely. Now, you said that there was the operation, they removed, there was like the surgical option. Mm-hmm. Was there any further treatment needed?
Not for me. So because I listened to my body so early on, so basically it's classed as head and neck cancer, which is usually it's usually men over 60 who are heavy smokers and drinkers. So my having that cancer was an anomaly, but also when I was speaking to a friend of mine, she's an anaesthetist, and she said to me, there's a really interesting study that's come out in the last couple of years, just as I was going through all of this, where women our age, so I'm 46 turning 47, are coming, like they're seeing a lot more of the oral cancers starting to show up in women my age, of my era. they're thinking it can be linked to the HPV virus. Mine was not. Mine was just a cell mutation and it turned cancerous. But most of the oral cancers people get to quite late because they're usually hidden. They can be down in the lymphs, they can be down the back of the throat, under the tongue, back up at the top of the gums. So it's very lucky that I could see it, that I could feel it, that it was annoying me. And so I didn't have to have any further treatment. So I was so lucky, apart from I have 3 monthly scans and checks now for the first 5 years.
So your tongue is a huge muscle that goes all the way down your throat.
Correct.
And it informs how we make sound. It informs our speech. Was your speech impacted by this operation?
Very much so, yeah. So, and I still don't have, so I just celebrated 2 years cancer-free in May.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so I still have numbness along that side of my tongue because they took about a third of my tongue on that side. So I still have numbness along the side. I still have a bit of a lisp. So anyone who is speaking to me probably wouldn't really pick it up that much. But when I talk for extended periods of time, my tongue gets tired. It's a bit weird. And then I also have some impairment under here because it's numb, sort of right the way down from my ear, down around my throat, right down to the middle here. So I can't feel anything here. This is all numb. So yes, I couldn't talk properly for quite some time, and it impacted me a lot, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the lucky ones. You know?
Yeah. I think Michael Douglas very famously had he had that HPV related cancer, because I know that there was lots of jokes made at the time around, sexual conduct and the transference, which is of course ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's a different form. So there's lots of different ones. But yeah, it was interesting because that was one of my first things. I said, so is this, like, how would I have got this? And he said, no, it's not HPV driven. It's actually a cell mutation. So it's a different form again of head and neck cancer.
I think often with cancer like that, how did I get this question? Like when you hear about, non-smokers, non-drinkers who get lung cancer, or, there doesn't seem to be much rhyme or reason. It's a bastard rogue cell that it turns, right, for whatever reason. Talk to me about not being able to speak clearly for 12 months and how that impacted your life.
It impacted everything, if I'm honest. So before I went into surgery, I didn't know how much impairment I would have, and I didn't know one of my favourite things to do is to sing and read books to my 2 boys. They're 12 and 9, but I still do it. Well, they're 12 and 9 now. So I read our favourite book and did a recording of that, not knowing if I would be able to read it properly again for them post-surgery. So I still have that as a lovely reminder, actually. But because most of my work is speaking, so I'm an HR consultant, but obviously a speaker, and I also am on podcasts and I do workshops, and and I like to talk a lot. I'm a talker, and so that enforced silencing was all-encompassing. It was this feeling of not being able to control anything that was happening in my body at the time, apart from having to choose myself to give myself the space to heal, and trusting that the therapy afterwards would return my speech clearly enough so that I could then return to do the work that I wanted to do. At the time of surgery, I was working in a role where our general manager had gone on holidays, or she was about to go on holidays, and I was stepping up into temporary hire duties. So I had surgery, and then 2 weeks later I was back at work and trying to balance the work and the family and my own healing. And not being able to speak properly was bad, but the other awful thing was the big scar and wound that was on my neck. So there was no hide, like you couldn't hide. I couldn't hide it. I could wear high collars, but you could still see because it sits right up under my ear and goes all the way down. There was no hiding that. So it was kind of people could see there was something wrong before I tried to speak. And then when I tried to speak, I couldn't speak properly. So yeah, it was really difficult. But then it was also a bit of a gift because being a talker, I often realised how much I do talk and perhaps don't listen as much as I could or needed to. And so I think what that gave me was the space to pause and turn inwards and hold space for other people because I couldn't speak back really that well. And it really changed. It changed how I do everything. It changed how I worked, how I interacted with my children and my husband and my loved ones. And it helped me to decide whether what I was saying was actually meaningful and needed rather than just talking for the sake of talking. So,
Wow. I actually went and did Vipassana, the 10-day silent meditation retreat,
amazing.
1,000 years ago, before kids. And I thought I was going to be like Liz Gilbert. Right?
At the century of gold.
Hang on 1 second. Let me just make sure I've got this all over here. Do I have that one? No, I forgot to press go. That's dumb. Anyway, let's get going.
It's recording. Is that
Yeah, this camera is, and I forgot to press my B camera after we fluffed about and got it all sorted. So the first half of the podcast is going to be me talking to the side, and that's life.
Do you know what? We just roll with the punches.
We do roll with the punches. I mean, there are way bigger things
Exactly
that go on in the world than we've got the wrong camera rolling on a podcast.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
first world problems.
Yeah, totally. I'm like good enough is okay
Absolutely.
on this stuff. So I did Vipassana, the 10-day silent meditation retreat. I thought that I was going to be Zen goddess Liz Gilbert, and just like find my, Kundalini energy
Awakening.
and fully. And instead, I was tortured and physically and emotionally tortured is the only way I can describe it. I don't like discomfort, clearly. And it was very cold. It's very cold and very Spartan dwellings.
Oh, was it? Did you eat good food at least?
2 meals a day, 2 meals a day. And it was like very, very vegan.
I've had it on my bucket list. I don't think I want to do it now.
Yeah, I thought that I would be amazing at it, and I thought that I would love the solitude, and I really, really struggled. And afterwards, when I came back into the world, everything seemed very, very loud and technicolor. And yeah, I did not enjoy having that sense sort of removed from me. Did it take you time? I've actually got two questions. The first one, before you go into surgery, they love to tell you like the worst things that could happen.
Yeah.
What was the biggest fear about where you might end up after the surgery?
Never being able to speak properly again or clearly again because they couldn't tell me how much of my tongue needed to come out until they went in. So I remember there's the ultimate power in being an anaesthetist, I think, because you can just knock people out when you want them to stop talking. But I remember as I was going under, being the talker I am, I just remember saying to the anaesthetist, don't take out any more tongue than you need to because my job is speaking. And then all I remember is like passed out. But my greatest fear, honestly, was not being able to talk again because I am such a verbal communicator. And I think the other fear I had, which was probably very vain and very superficial, I was very scared of getting my neck cut open because, of course, I Googled the
worst case scenario.
Yeah, why wouldn't I? Because that's a super strong choice. Like, good on you. So I Googled it and I was like, oh, that is really, it's quite a graphic. I don't recommend you look it up. Let me just put it that way. And so my big fear was, if they're going to be doing that to my neck, am I forever going to have this horrifying gash down my neck? Like, I think I said to someone, it's going to be like Jack the Ripper's been at my throat. That was kind of that was my vibe. And so there was probably the two things of, I knew that they would be able to cut it out because I knew it hadn't spread. I didn't know how much they were going to take. I didn't know the recovery time, and I also didn't know the scarring. And the other thing was, there's always that fear where when you're diagnosed with any form of serious illness, I think there's that fear of your whole life flashes before your eyes, and you think about all the things you haven't done. You think about all the words you haven't said, particularly if you know that you might be silenced. And there's that moment where you go, have I done enough? Have I done everything that I would want to if this is it? And I even got my husband, I even said to my husband, let's do our will. I want to do my will before I go under because you don't know. And he's like, don't be ridiculous. I said, no, you start planning for all of that because when you go under, you just don't know. You hope you come out. But
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then further to my point before where I was self-silenced at the meditation retreat versus it was taken away from you for this time, did any of your other senses feel like they were heightened when that was taken away, particularly in the early days when you probably couldn't make much sound or move your tongue at all because it was too painful, presumably?
Super painful. So painful.
Yeah.
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 Yes. So I'm a very sensory person already. And so I use herbs a lot and essential oils, and I love being in nature and touching leaves and just very sensory. So I know why my kids are wanting to touch things all the time. Super annoying for me, but I get it. And so one of my beautiful friends came to the hospital when I was in hospital, and she said, do you want to go for a walk? And I said, you know what, I think I'm okay to go for a walk. Let's go. So we went out into the parklands, which were just so stunning. And it was autumn, and so all the leaves were changing colour. And so we took a beautiful, mindful stroll through the parklands and picked up beautiful leaves that were changing colour. There was a herb garden, so I was able to grab some rosemary, which is one of my favourite. In fact, I've got a photo of me holding a sprig of rosemary that I'd collected. And for me, the sense of smell became really important because it was a really good way to calm myself when I was feeling anxious or overwhelmed. And I've always been really focused on slowing down to look at things and take in things I'm quite curious. And so being able to pick up the leaves and look at the leaves. And so I've got another photo in the hospital where I've got these autumn leaves that are all along the windowsill because I had a lovely window. But I lost a lot of my sense of taste as well. So I couldn't speak properly, but I also couldn't taste. And I still can't taste. It's actually a joke in our family now because I can't taste a lot of salt or chili on that side. So when I cook, which is very rare, by the way, my husband does all the cooking, I made something and my family were just like, this is disgusting. This is so salty. And I was like, tasting it going, what are you talking about? It tastes really delicious. My cooking's amazing. And they were like, Soph, we can't eat it. And the kids were like, Mummy, this is so gross. And I went, okay, fair enough. So salt, I can't taste a lot of salt. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah. And was your taste impacted earlier on, like more broadly, or has it always just been sort of salt?
My tongue, most of my tongue was numb for the first, oh goodness, I think it would have to have been about 8 to 10 months. So the nerves that regrow or regroup, some will rejoin and some won't. I also had some, luckily it wasn't permanent, but I had some nerve damage to the nerve that is sort of gets into this bit down here. And so I had a bit of a palsy on that side. So taste was, I didn't really love food for a while. And it was also really painful while it was healing to eat. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Your walk with your friend sounded amazing, and she sounds amazing.
She is.
So let her know. Let her know after this. You were talking about her today, and how amazing she is, and
she is.
that I got the warm fuzzies.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you actually had quite a big outpouring of love generally at that time, which obviously that is something that you would, excuse me, yeah, something that you would imagine would happen with your nearest and dearest, because it's a significant health scare. But I think that your outpouring came from further and wider than you imagined. Tell us a bit about that.
People online were so people I hadn't even contacted or been in conversation with before. I can't even begin to explain how beautiful some of the words were, the outpouring of love and kindness and support and offers of making food. And I had beautiful people sending. I've got this gorgeous friend who I don't see very often. She lives in Queensland. She rang me. She was so lovely. Well, she actually didn't ring me. She texted me. That's right. She texted me and she said, "What do you want me to do? I can cook some food for you. I can get some food pre-made and sent down to you and delivered to you. I can get someone to pick your kids up from school. And what would you like me to do? A, B, C, or D?" I can't remember what the fourth one was.
How good is that?
Because when
So good.
yeah, when and she's next level amazing, by the way. She has 4 boys and she's incredible. She knew that in that moment I wouldn't have the capacity emotionally to even think through how to manage everything. And so her giving me 4 options to choose from, I was able to go, "Thank you so much for the offer of help, and I would like option B." I think it was, anyway, it was all this food that got sent to my door. Because my husband was unwell at the same time as me being in hospital. So there was a lot that was happening.
Of course he was. Of course he was. How's the timing? It happens
Yeah.
all the time, or so often.
Yeah.
What do you find that it was easier for you to receive because somebody gave you those options than it would be for you to say, "This is what I need"?
100%.
Why? I mean, we all know. We all know why, but let's spell it out, because I hear this time and time again with women. It's like, "I was at my lowest point and I was really struggling and I just told everyone I was fine."
Yeah. Why? Why do we do that?
Yeah.
No,
So not fine.
I know,
Yeah.
not fine. Not fine at all. I was not fine on any level. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The reason it was so impactful was because when I was feeling so unwell, I actually didn't really know what I needed, who could give me anything, who I could ask. I didn't have any capacity other than trying to just get through each day. And so when someone comes in and sweeps in like a beautiful guardian angel like that and says, "These are the things I think you might need, is that correct?" And then you can say, "Yes, amazing, thank you, I do actually need that." Or you can say, "No, I don't need anything," or I need something else. And I think it really opens up the dialogue around, I'm here to help. I can be practical with help, or I can just listen to you and sit with you in the mud while you're trying to survive. And I think that's the powerful part of it, is if someone offers, it's easier to receive, I think, sometimes, than reaching out to ask.
I think it's that specificity. If someone offers specificity, it is easier than just an open-ended, let me know if I can help.
Yes, because you're
Right?
like, sure, no, I don't need any help. But actually,
No, well, it just is the thing that you say, as opposed to A, B, C, or D. It's done. Consider it done. I love that. How did it make you feel? I mean, obviously, you know that you're loved, right? But how did it make you feel when complete strangers or virtual strangers on the interwebs had really supportive things to say? Like, how was that?
I was speechless. So even over the past 2 years, I still have people coming up to me in the street. I'm in Adelaide, and I've had someone come up recently, and she said, "I've been following your journey. You are so inspiring. Thank you so much. Can I give you a hug?" And there's just no words, I don't think, for being offered something beautiful that doesn't cost anyone anything except a moment in time of connection. And some people might think that's weird. I don't, because I'll go and talk to anyone kind of human. But
You'll hug anyone. If anyone sees Sophie out in the mall, Rundle Mall,
I'll go and hug random.
she's up for a random hug.
I am. I love a good hug. So, yeah, I think for me, it was just a beautiful reminder of the power of humanity and how important connection is, that we often don't feel is necessary, or we don't think is important enough to tell someone or to talk to people about. And I think that part of the problem with the world that I see is that we don't talk to strangers because we're worried. We don't let our kids run outside much because we're worried about them. We don't look people in the eye because we're too busy on our phones or our laptops. We're so caught up in what we're doing that we don't pause and say, I see you and you matter, and I think you're doing great. So that was a big reminder.
Love that. And it's so powerful, even as you were saying that, I see you and I think you're doing great. I'm here, I see you. I love that so much, and agree that we all get very, very caught up on our own little hamster wheels. And we talk about it a lot on Big Stuff, that, the big thing, the hard stuff has a way of happening for us. And it shows us again, what's important, or might send us off in a new trajectory. We were talking earlier how I'm in one of those right now, whereas I'm like, what is this? Where am I going? What is this trajectory? But you said, when we were talking, when we were setting up the podcast, something that I also find really interesting on this is it wasn't all just receiving love. You also had to set up some pretty firm boundaries with people and hold those boundaries when you probably didn't feel like you had much capacity for anything. Tell us what you learned through that, or what that was about.
So boundaries with loved ones, actually, because as I mentioned, my hubby was quite unwell at the time that I was unwell, and he was actually hospitalised the same week that I was hospitalised for my surgery. So we were both not around for that whole week, and our kids were with my lovely mum. She, looked after them, and then my brother-in-law flew over from the Gold Coast and helped support us as well. I think the biggest boundary that I learnt, and the reason I'm pausing because there were quite a few moments where I had to say, no, me first. And that was around kids. It was around my husband's health. It was around taking time from work. Although I did go back to work, I certainly stayed home as much as I possibly could while I was healing in the early stages. And I think the biggest boundary was around not feeling guilty for taking time to heal, rather than just saying, I'm okay, it's all good, I might not be able to speak, I've had part of my tongue removed, my neck's been cut open, but she'll be fine. And there was that moment where I kind of went, I'm not okay, and I matter, and I've got all these responsibilities, but I'm going to say yes to people helping. I'm going to ask people to help, and I'm going to double down on me. And I made my time sacred.
Yes, I love the sound of that. We are often really programmed as women that partners and children, they come first. And even if we're not programmed, if we have by, some stroke of miraculous luck received some kind of other messaging, It's still something that is somehow
Innate.
deeply ingrained in us, I think. Yeah, really innate. Exactly. I know, recently I've been in a grief period, but my kids have had needs that have really made me put my stuff on the back burner. And like the family has been on fire in various different ways, which meant that I have really pushed a lot of my stuff down. And it almost feels sometimes like there's no time for me to be sick, sad, not coping. There's no time
No.
for that shit.
Yeah.
I've got to just set myself on fire to keep everyone else warm. How did you undo that innate conditioning this time?
Sorry, my internet's gone a bit slow. I think it's the storm. Can you see me okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, the internet's laggy because we've got terrible storms here in Adelaide. So I'm sorry if I did.
Mother Nature. We're not going to fight Mother Nature.
No, she's a wild and woolly one here today. No, the last thing I heard just before it paused was the setting myself on fire to keep other people warm.
That is how we are
Yes.
often programmed.
Yeah.
And how did you undo that for this round? How did you not do that this time? Because I imagine most other times you would, or you have. And that's very presumptuous of me.
No, that's
thinking
true.
about me. I do it all the time. I put all of my feelings on the back burner.
know, true story.
I push them down. Yeah. How did you do it this time? Was it simply because it was cancer? Like there's no denying that this is a big, big one.
Yeah. And I think there was kind of a dual thing where my kids haven't known until recently that it was cancer because they had their dad sick at the same time as me, chronically ill, and then I was really, really unwell, obviously. And we were in a state of flux. We were living at mum's at the time because had been caravanning. And so for me, I didn't want to create more upheaval. I didn't want to create more of a challenge by choosing me, but I also knew that if I didn't choose me first, then it would be even worse. And I think when we are weighing up whether to take care of ourselves or whether to put ourselves on the back burner, we need to have a think about longer term. Is this going to impact me and my loved ones and what I'm doing more if I don't choose to address this now? Or can I put a little pause on it and work through it, in chunks, slowly down the track? For me, I had no choice but to choose me. And, well, I'll rephrase that. I chose to choose me and cared more about myself than I ever have in my whole life because I wanted to be well for my kids and my hubby and my loved ones going forward. And I knew that if I didn't, then it wouldn't be good.
That you just made that distinction, that you caught yourself and you made the distinction that you did make a choice.
Yeah.
For two reasons. Firstly, a lot of people will often say to me, I have no choice. This is just the way that it is. And I will always say there is always a choice. You always have a choice. It might be difficult. It might seem like it is like a really hard thing or far-fetched, but you're one choice away from a very different experience.
Yes.
But the other thing is that you didn't diminish the fact that you bloody did that.
Yeah.
Right? You could have continued to set yourself on fire, but you didn't. You made that choice. And I love that you caught yourself out there to acknowledge, this time I chose me.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in the decision to not tell your kids. Now, going to caveat that I have zero judgment on whether you tell them or not. I know I personally have an enormous mouth. You're a talker, so don't you? I have an enormous mouth and I find it very hard to keep things from them. Now, I like to think that I make it age appropriate. However, I probably have told them too much at times to ease my own maybe discomfort or to ease the building pressure of this thing that is unspoken. Talk to me about that decision and coming to that decision, presumably with your partner.
So there were a couple of layers to that. So firstly, because my husband's illness was life-threatening as well, you
don't do things by halves in the Bretag family.
Right? You know, going to do a job, do it well. That's our motto. So,
is he okay now?
He is. Thank you. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, he's doing
good.
Well. So we had kind of the perfect storm of him having a life-threatening situation and me having a life-saving operation. So we decided at the time, so our kids were, what were they then, 7-ish and 10-ish, that they had just come back to Adelaide and had just reconnected with all of their friends and their family and were feeling really good. But we didn't have a home, which can be a bit discombobulating for children if they don't have a base, or for people, I think. We love travelling and we do it all the time, but certainly 4 months on the road was, you know, it was great, but there's no base. So we were trying to reestablish that settling feeling for the kids. And then to have, I just started a new job in January. My husband had just gone back to policing in January as well. So there was a lot going on. And I don't regret not telling them. I've had some people question it, don't get me wrong, because I think a lot of people think that kids should know the reality of what's going on. And certainly we are that family where we have a lot of open chats. When we were thinking of moving to Cairns, we consulted on what they wanted to do. We did the same when we came back to Adelaide. What do you want to do? Where do you want to live? That kind of thing. But when it came to 2 life-threatening illnesses happening in the same week, and seeing how upset the kids were, knowing I was going into surgery, also not having Daddy around, it was just a decision in the moment to say, is this necessary for us to put that adult load onto 2 children under 10, where they can't probably understand cognitively what was going to happen in the future? We didn't really have any answers at that stage. I didn't know whether I'd need further treatment post-surgery, that kind of thing. And so I think from that perspective, there was a level of protection for the kids. And I was willing to, and so was my husband, willing to hold on to that truth until we felt the time was right to share that truth with them, when we felt that they were settled enough in their life that they could then work their way through what that meant. So our kids see a psychologist. She's beautiful, child psychologist, and has been since we both were unwell. And so, yeah, we've just worked through it. How are you feeling?
So you're waiting until you have more information so you can tell them, like, sort of what the outcome is likely to be, rather than leading from fear. Which, and you know, that would leave them feeling very vulnerable, yep. I imagine.
Yeah.
Going in with no information. I certainly I'm not questioning the choice. I think it's a really wise choice. And I wonder if I would be able to make the same choice. Like, could I hold my tongue, if you will pardon the pun?
I love that though. I'm boom. I can laugh about it, by the way, now.
Excellent. Excellent. Do you feel that experience has kind of changed your hardwiring around self-kindness and your capacity to receive? I work with a lot of high-achieving women who sort of have this default program of like not, and then maybe in a time of need can open up, and then they will go back to this, you know, real sense of autonomy and independence, and I can do everything, I've got this. Where do you feel you've landed after this, 2 years after? Do you think it's changed you fundamentally, or... Yeah, sorry, I kept going with that question.
I love it. It's a great question. Yes, is my answer. Yes, it's changed me, fundamentally changed me. I feel like I knew how important self-kindness was prior to, but did I practice it religiously? No. So when I was really unwell and had no real choice other than to say, I'm going to take care of me, and then had the power of the pause and the power of the silence and the power of the introspection and the slowdown, I realized that I didn't want to go back to how I was before. And the reason that I was able to find out I was unwell was because I had slowed down enough on our caravan trip and had spaciousness and was kind to myself in going, this doesn't feel right, I'm going to listen to my intuition. That why wouldn't I continue that on?
It's funny, as you said that, what I felt in my body was almost a sense of permission
Yeah.
to not return to how I was before this last 6 months, which is interesting because there is a part of me that is really in this space of, of push through this feeling, like just you'll be okay. It's like you got to get back on the horse. But that really landed for me then, Soph, as like permission to, it's okay to move into this new way of being. And I mean, I would never say to you, what are you doing? Like, you need to be back out there. Like, you're amazing. And you got to hustle, sister. You got to hustle. This is the thing, right? We wouldn't tell anyone that they need to push through, but to really listen to themselves. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that beautiful gift.
Yeah. That's beautiful to hear because, when you were telling me your situation before we started recording, and I thought, grief is not linear, healing's not linear, and I was thinking to myself, where's the space for you to sit with that feeling and process it and allow yourself to be okay with that? Because sometimes we keep ourselves so busy so we don't have to feel what we're feeling. And I think giving ourselves that gift of the permission slip to say that what we're feeling is okay to feel, and we can also take the time to heal through that.
I'm hugely guilty of just getting productive. You're hugely guilty. I've taken 6 months off work, but I've written 2 books and done an art show, right? So I'm like, yeah, I have taken time off. I've sat with it, but I know deep down that I'm processing it in bite-sized chunks, as we often do. And like with big things, we process them in bite-sized chunks so we don't overwhelm the nervous system.
Yeah. I think that's okay because it really depends on the depth of those feelings and the strength of those feelings and whether we're capable in that moment to really embrace those feelings and make sure that they're moving through us rather than sitting in us. And I think that there's no shame in actually taking bite-sized chunks at grief, as long as you're alongside that, making sure that the busyness around it is not then numbing what you're trying to work through.
Of course. Oh, I didn't anticipate this conversation being a coaching session for me, but your check will be in the mail. Check will be in the mail. I love this. I love this so much. You said a moment ago that you had the benefit of the pause and the spaciousness and the enforced slowing down. Yeah. Did that come easily to you, or was there anger and frustration and all? Did you have to go through, because again, that's a form of grief, right? Did you have to go through all of the stages of that?
Yes, absolutely. I'm not going to lie. Okay. I was so angry and I was so frustrated. And I think when you can't use a part of your body like you always have, and it is your key thing that you communicate with, there was this frustration in me going, this is so unfair. I'm going to say the words. I felt really, really, I've sat in my shit show for a while and said, this is unfair. Why me? I don't understand this. And then I went, you know what? What's the opportunity in this moment? So it was a roller coaster. I think there was also a part where And I hadn't really thought about this prior to someone saying it, but another beautiful, I'm so lucky with the beautiful people I've got in my life. But another beautiful friend said to me,
You know that you attract them because you're beautiful
"Oh, that's
inside too, right?
Stop.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
stop.
yeah. No.
She said to me, Sophie, you've had part of your body cut off. And she said, so there's a form of grief that you're going to have to work through and loss because you've had part of your body removed. It's so invasive. You've had someone in your body cutting out your main part of your main communication channel. So you're allowed to feel sad. You're allowed to feel angry. And that helped me, I think, as well, understand some of the feelings around it. So I think having a really strong network of people who care about you and who can reflect back some things to you when you're going through things is super important as well.
Yeah, the power of wise friends. I highly recommend everybody gets like a
And
super
at least two or
wise.
three.
You need like, yeah. You need like one like really foul-mouthed
Yeah.
pirate kind of like hilarious
Yeah.
but unreliable
Yeah.
friend. But then you need like your really wise
Yes,
friends.
your oracle.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh dear, I'm just kicking everything here. Hang on one second. This has just turned itself up again.
Oh, that's all right. We've gone back to, I just am seeing myself on the screen and the lines. It's all good. Perfect. I love our tech.
Okay.
Show us.
Oh my God. I
Me
don't know
with my-
what is happening today.
Me with my slow internet and you with your on-offs.
That's okay. I have a guy, my guy. Hey, Satano, we love you. Can you fix this for us?
Thank you, Satana. I don't know who you are, but I'm
Yeah.
sure you're amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, he is. He's so great. Um, so tell me now, I know that you've written a book recently about kindness, particularly in leadership, but I want to talk about leading with kindness in your life generally,
Yeah.
right? What does that look like? So not nice, never be nice.
No, don't be nice. If there's one thing that people
Don't
get
be
out of
nice.
today, apart from taking care of yourself, don't be nice. Nobody likes a nice person.
But we do love a kind person. How can we
Sometimes. So I'm going to, yeah. So sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I can
Tell me
clarify
more.
that.
Tell me more.
So kindness is actually it's such a strong thing to step into. And when we think about leading ourselves from a place of kindness, with that comes a level of discomfort because it means that we will set the boundaries and we'll hold them. And people might not like that. We will have the difficult conversations and people might not like that. We will choose ourselves to take care of ourselves and some people might not like that. And so when I say people don't always like a kind person, they may not like them all the time, but they're likely to respect them because they respect themselves.
Yes. As Brene Brown says that, having boundaries is, what is it? Daring to make others or something. I'm totally paraphrasing, but like daring to take care of yourself at the risk of displeasing others.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yeah, but also clear is kind. She talks about being clear is kind.
Being clear is kind. Yeah, we've talked about that a lot on the podcast. What does it mean to you day to day in how you live, how you set limits, how you show up for yourself to be in kindness?
I make sure that I eat well. That sounds really simple, but I think that is such an easy way to show ourselves that we matter by choosing foods that nourish, by spending time with people who light me up, people who lift me up, people who are fun and make me feel good, people who challenge my thinking. I think that there is a level of you can't be stepping out as your best self and leading strongly if you're not stretching your brain and your heart quite often. And I mean that in a positive way, speaking to people who know more about things than you do in a certain area or having conversations that stretch your brain and your heart in places you didn't think they could stretch into. So those are really simple things. Also, nature. I'm obsessed with nature. Honestly, nature is the biggest healer. If we don't connect to the world around us and we're not connected to ourselves, then how can we possibly lead from a place of connection and alignment? There's just no congruence there. So nature is a big one for me, and I have that, as you can see, everywhere in our house and outside and, in our bedroom, everywhere. So I think if we're thinking about the general person just trying to lead themselves more kindly and show up in the world as a better version of themselves, prioritizing the things that spark joy in them, finding the adventures, finding the curiosity and the awe in life. I mean, my kids went out and moonbathed under the full moon on Sunday night. I didn't even ask them. Just they were like, "Oh, it's a full moon. Let's go out and moonbathe, Mummy." And I said, "Yeah, let's do it. Why not?" So, not being afraid to try different things and learn and step outside your comfort zone. I think that there is such a power in being able to not have all the answers, but being willing to go gently on yourself if you don't have them while you're learning, I think is a big thing, because that translates into every facet of your life. It's how you interact with others. It's how you do your work. It's how you live your life and create new adventures. So, yeah.
Amazing. You've just celebrated 2 years post-surgery, as you said, and I invite you to just think back to that version of you 2 years ago who was sitting in silence or sitting in discomfort and pain, really in the middle of the experience and the fear and everything that came with that. What do you want her to know?
Get a little bit emotional with this one, Danielle. Thank you for that question. That's taken me left of centre. I want her to know that she is braver and stronger than she realizes, that she is more loved than she ever thought possible, and that she's going to make the world a better place from holding space with empathy for others and listening than talking.
Big, big words for everyone to listen to, like big, big feelings. So beautiful, so beautiful. Your energy is divine. I really, really appreciate you coming on and talking and sharing your experience with us. You have a book coming out called The Kind Way. Is that out end of June?
June 30, it's in store, yes, and people can pre-order now, but it won't be actually in your hands until it's in store June 30, yes. I've got it here.
Amazing.
This is one of the early.
Yes. Beautiful. Congratulations on writing a book. A lot of people talk about writing a book and never do it.
Yes.
You have done it. That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Let me see if I've said everything I want to say. I think we've nailed it.
I've had the best
Okay.
time chatting to you, honestly. I just feel like we could hang out for hours and hours in a coffee shop or a bookstore with coffee
Agreed.
and chat.
Agreed.
So
Yeah. I was approached to speak to Sophie about her book, but when I heard the whole rest of her story, I was really curious to learn more about how these enormous life moments change us. And Sophie absolutely delivered so many juicy moments, I think, for you, but also for me. In particular, that permission slip to allow yourself to not go back to the way things were. But she also gave us a reminder that the things that silence us can also be the things that show us who we really are. Sophie lost her voice literally, and in that silence, she discovered how loved she was, how much she was holding that she didn't need to hold, and that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's everything. I found this conversation to be really moving, and I trust that you will as well. But before we go, I'd like to give you 2 thinking points, as always, just to take with you. When someone you love is struggling, do you give them an open door? Let me know if you need anything, shout out if I can help in any way. Or do you give them those options? Do you give them the A, B, C, or D? Think about one person in your life right now who might need this second kind of kindness. And a point for yourself to think about is, where are you waiting for permission to stop setting yourself on fire? Because you already have permission. It's inside you. You can give it to yourself. Sophie's book, The Kind Way, is out on the 30th of June, and I will link to it in the show notes. Until next time, wishing you so much luck and love with the big stuff.
To make that happen on stage.
Okay, let's do that. Either Adelaide or Sydney, if you're over in Wollongong. Yeah, let's do that.
We've got family
Sophie-
in Wollongong, actually. So
Oh, there you go. So come. All right, let me do a proper proper closing then. Sitana, you're gonna have to cut that out.
sorry.
Okay, no, it's all good. Sophie Bretag, thank you so much for coming along and sharing your big stuff.
Thank you so much, Danielle. It's been an absolute pleasure and a joy, and I feel really special just hanging out with you.
You are special. We are special.
Stop it.
Bye.
Bye.